and be careful. You don't want to fall in here. Now, the last couple of episodes, we've dived just a teensy little bit into immersive engineering, but today we're going to be getting into a lot more of this immersive engineering mod, and also integrating it with the create mod, because that's the whole style of this pack, and I'm absolutely loving this thus far. Now, what exactly do I mean by integrating immersive engineering with create? Well, we're going to use immersive engineering to generate a significant amount of power that we can then turn into rotational force with the create mod. I think ultimately that is going to be a good use of this. Now, also in that process, we can generate a few fluids using immersive engineering, and those fluids will allow us to superheat blaze burners and heat blaze burners anywhere we need. Now, up to this point, I have been playing a lot of this pack without some of the really good, nice add-on mods that exist for Create. One of them being a way to wirelessly send items back and forth, and I felt like that was one thing that was absolutely missing from this pack, unfortunately. So I have added a mod to the pack. I know, it's crazy. What's ChosenArchitect doing? Adding mod packs or adding mods to packs. But I am. And I added this one, Create Ender Transmissions. Now, this mod effectively adds wireless versions of, for example, a way to transfer stress, a way to transfer items, and a way to transfer fluids. And it even adds a chunk loader, even though that's not absolutely necessary. But these things right here have some pretty interesting recipes. They're not horrible to make, but they do require you to have had precision mechanisms automated, potentially some obsidian, and have gone to the end due to the sheer requirement of ender pearls. So yeah, I mean, it's pretty much a late game item. These are the default recipes, by the way. Now, I want to be able to use these items around our base and also potentially using them in other dimensions, because we do have dimensions such as the moon, and it didn't really make sense for us to have access to planetary bodies if we can't, well, put things in them or use things there, right? Because like, what's the point of going to the moon and like staying there if, well, there's nothing to do there? If we can't, for example, get our power there, we can't get items back and forth to our main base, and so on and so forth. And well, if you've been watching me long enough, you'll know that, well, there's not a whole lot on those Ad Astra planets. And hardly anything at all, really. Now, enough of me rambling on. What I want to do is I want to expand the base this way, and I want to use this for immersive engineering. Now, I am going to need sort of a factory for this this sort of mod. It requires a lot of space, and especially for the setups that I have planned, I'm going to need a little bit more space. And it does get a little laggy the more create stuff we put into one area. So yeah, getting away from the base a little bit is going to be very nice as well. Now, what exactly do I need the space for, you might ask? And to that, I'm going to say, well, immersive engineering requires a ton of space, and a ton. All of these multi-blocks, they take up a lot of space, and we're probably going to need maybe more than one of all of those multi-blocks. So to be able to do this, yes, having it out here is going to be nice. Now, I want to decorate just a little bit in getting out here, and I'm going to use a couple of different blocks. We have andesite, some polished andesite, and I also have some concrete. But my ultimate goal is to have a bunch of garden cloches that can produce a bunch of seeds for us, so that way we can turn that into seed oil. And then ultimately what I want to do is I want that seed oil to be turned into diesel. So it's going to take some combining with ethanol, and so we're going to need a crusher and a couple of other things from the mod. And all of these things added together will hopefully end up producing some significant power from a diesel generator. That's going to be the big goal. And eventually later on, I really want to dabble even more into immersive engineering, because there's an excavator. There's actually a way to rip ore from the ground and basically supply us with like an unlimited source of some sort of material. I don't think it's absolutely unlimited, but it is going to be a source of ores, whether that's copper or what have you. Now, iron, we've already got it covered, but I would really love to be able to pull out zinc if we can. I don't know if it'll allow us to do that, or even copper. Copper would be fantastic as well. And gold, we could technically just automate that with create. So now I have this nice inviting path that looks sort of nice and industrial that's leading over here. That's going to give us a ton of space to work with. Now I've got a lot of trees to clear out. Oh, and man, look at this view from here. That is so nice looking. Now, also when it comes to chopping down trees, well, getting into immersive engineering is also going to solve this problem in the future, because we will be able to, for example, use a saw. There's a saw in that mod, but it does require, I believe, biodiesel in order to run. So yeah, we still have to get this whole setup just to be able to use those tools, including a drill. There's a 3x3 drill and so on and so forth that you can actually make from the mod as well. So immersive has a lot of really useful tools. However, the useful tools are pretty well gated towards, I would say, late game progression of the mod in itself. Now, at the end of the day, I've got to think about all of these mods as essentially being a tool that aids you in the ability to gain items and blocks that you can eventually build with. I think I always lose focus that this game sometimes, you know, I love building in it, but I still lose focus in the fact that these mods are basically here to help you gain more materials, easier, quote unquote, that you can use to build, for example, really cool things. And I really do enjoy that fact, but I forget it from time to time. Like it really does leave my brain, and I will progress through a mod and go, why am I even doing this? Why am I going through this progression? And it's like, yeah, oh yeah, it's so that way I can get more cool items to build with. That is just what it is about. I mean, yeah, this is a building block game after all. So yeah, I literally posed the question to myself today as I was planning today's episode, and I was like, why am I even doing this? What do I need this for? Oh yeah, it's so that way we can build more cool stuff. That's ultimately what I've come to the conclusion of. Yeah, and the only thing that should be limiting me is my caveman brain. That's literally it. So yes, I've slowly started filling this whole area in, and I've got a little turtle friend. This whole area is like so filled with turtles. But you can see I've started to build out this sort of perimeter area, which is going to give me a ton of room. Now I got this ugly wall right here, and I'm still not sure what this is going to be. This might actually be turned directly into a factory, so this wall is not going to be a huge deal. But for right now, I'm just going to be building this out until I have, you know, a more sustainable source of, for example, concrete and andesite. I'm just going to be continuing to build out this flat platform. And yes, I've got to do it all by hand because, well, there's not a whole lot of options in this pack. Outside of just create, I could potentially use rollers. Rollers might actually work in filling this in, but that would require quite a few rollers. And yeah, there's not a lot of building aids in this pack, I guess you could say. And I guess I could add them. Building gadgets would be a fantastic addition, I think. Or just some regular building wands would honestly help out a lot. Especially since this pack really relies on pretty large areas for setting up your factories. So yes, nothing like a flat area to work with. Ah, modded Minecraft. No, but in all seriousness, this whole area is going to help us expand upon our infrastructure. Now, you might be wanting to know how big this area is, so I've got my handy dandy abacus, and we're going to start here and wander all the way here, and we can see this is 33 blocks by, let's see, this is probably a little bit longer, 33 blocks by 35 blocks. So yeah, we could make it a perfect square if I really wanted to, but I'm not super worried about that. Just as long as I have this nice large area to work with. And I really like the variance in all of the different blocks. Now I still need to get power over here, so I'm definitely going to need to drag our power from its current position over here. And I do want to use these if at all possible. Let's see, I might be able to get the power transferred over this whole water system and onto this. So yeah, I'm going to place some connectors down, and I'm going to attach, hopefully, to this. Will it reach? So yeah, it still only covers 16 blocks, so we're pretty limited, but I am going to place one here, and then I can connect there, and then connect to this, or should I just run this directly over? I should probably run it as far as I can over. Yeah, this is definitely going to look a lot nicer. I'm going to run this from point to point. So these actually serve a more important role than just lights here. So yeah, I now have all of these wonky blue cables floating all over the base. But these do serve a purpose. This is going to allow us to power multiple machines. And yeah, this is the way of getting power from one location to another. Now, one of the ways that I want to get stress over here, even though we do have a sort of wireless way as of right now, is I still want to make a max motor from Create New Age. So here we go. And it actually gives us 2 of these max motors. And we should also be able to increase the double basically the stresses it can produce pretty easily, by the way. Now, this says max speed is at 256. Now, does that mean it is just automatically a max tier motor? Like, that's pretty awesome if that's the case. Then that just is spinning at max RPM. Like, that's fantastic. I wonder how much power this uses. So I need a connector. And we should be able to see, hopefully, what this actually spins at, because I haven't been able to test this yet. So let's connect up here to this. Okay, so it does not spin at that rate, but it does use 240 power in order to actually 240 power per tick in order to produce that 8,000 SU. And let's go ahead and take a look here. We should be able to add the extension on the back, right? And this will allow us to double that. And so now this is producing 16,000. That is the equivalent of 32 large water wheels, by the way. Like, that is a lot of SU. And for the longest time, we were just running purely off of 64 water wheels. And yeah, this one little motor right here is the equivalent of half of our water wheels. So this is actually going to be fantastic. Okay, so what do I want to do right now? I want to go ahead and start working on the garden cloches. Now, this is going to start producing seeds and seed oil. But to set up garden cloches, they do require power in their own right. So we're going to need to get power to all of these. And they also need water. Now, water, I'm going to use an immersive engineering pump, which is going to be a new pump that you haven't seen me use yet. So now that I've made some garden cloches, I can go ahead and start setting them up. So right here, I'm going to go ahead and place these. Now, this is the face of the garden cloches. And I also want them to be facing into each other like this. And so let's go ahead and for right now, let's see, we probably want 10 of them because if we take a look at the seed oil here, let's just assume that we get 1 seed per operation, which I don't think is the case, but 1 seed only produces what looks to be 100 millibuckets, and we actually need 10 100 millibuckets to make 1 bucket. So that means we would need 10 seeds in order to make 1 bucket of seed oil. So having 10 of these at least feels right to me. And so all of these items we can actually route with belts, and I kind of want to use the belts from Immersive Engineering because I think that is just going to be way more fitting. And I'm going to put them into limited barrels, but getting power to these, that's a whole other thing. So we are going to need connectors to be connected onto the top. We can use the electrical connectors. These are actually pretty cheap, and I think that would be just fine having them all connected in line with each other. But getting the fluid, the water, right? Because these need water. So let's take a look. We do have these fluid pipes, which are actually kind of nice for this operation. Now the back port here, this is where the fluid actually gets routed. So we're going to have a very industrial looking area very, very soon because here in the back, I actually want this to be piped from a pump. So this is a fluid pump. And the way that this fluid pump works is we can have outputs on all the sides. So we can have an output here and here, but we can also have inputs, and that's the important part. So if I make this a blue, this is an input side, and I make this blue, that's an input side, and make this an output side. If we put water here and water here, this then becomes an infinite source. So that means it can pump infinite water from that source, or if it's connected to an infinite source side, it also works. But if we give this a little bit of power and we have water here and water here, this will then pump water, and we can have our pipes automatically connected to this. And these pipes don't need any sort of rotation or stress or anything like that. They're just going to automatically send the water from here into these machines. Now, something that I totally forgot about this pump, and I always forget about this, and you probably will too, is that this needs a redstone signal. So this does need a redstone signal on the face. So what I'm going to do here is just have my input and my outputs on this side. And then on the face, I will just simply have this waterlog. Now, I don't know if these pipes can be waterlogged, but I'm going to put an infinite source of water right in front of this pump. And then this, like I said, does need a redstone signal to operate, or at least it should. And there we go. Now we're starting to see water flow in. I do have power running through this, and all of my connectors are connected together. And you can see this is now starting to fill with water from our pump. Ah, fantastic. Now to trapdoor this ugliness. Perfect, as if it never existed. Right. Now inside of each of these, you do have a couple of slots. Now bone meal is a fertilizer that you can actually feed to this that goes in this slot over on the left, but it is not necessary and you don't actually have to use it. The only real thing you need is just your dirt and your seeds, right? So you just need a single seed in there. Same with this, dirt and a seed. But it does say that you can use rich soil, which will give you a little bit higher yield. However, rich soil is kind of an extensive process in order to get here. So yeah, and unless you do it inside of a bottling machine, which is what we're working towards. Now with this, you've just got to admire that growing animation. As it continues to grow in here, it will automatically harvest itself just like that. And you can see we get ourselves some seeds and a bunch of wheat, which is fantastic. Now, the output ports on these cloches are, believe it or not, this right here. And this will auto output, by the way, into a barrel, for example. And I believe if we use a belt, I believe it auto outputs to the belt as well. So yes, the belt just automatically received those items. And because of that, it ended up spitting them out and we ended up collecting them, as you can see right there. So the best way to do this would be to place in our belts like this. And yeah, have them all routed out. And then we can start to sort of route them in our own way out here. And I think the best way to do this is via an item router right here on the front. So the item router is going to accept those items into it and is going to output it to these two sides. And so we can put a barrel here and a barrel here, and you'll notice that this will automatically route to an available inventory, which is what it's currently doing. But we can be very specific with it if we really wanted to. We can say, okay, what's on the left side? So if I was to remove this, for example, we see that is a blue side right there. And if we go to the blue side, we can say, hey, only send wheat to the blue side. Same goes for this barrel. We see that it is a pink side, which is the opposite. We can go, hey, only send seeds over here. And that would allow us to filter it if these were just going into regular storages. Now you could set up some fancy redstone. If these ended up filling up, you could shut these off. The port that is right here actually is redstone control. So you can give it a lever signal and it would actually shut the cloche off. But in our case, I'm just going to put void upgrades in here so that way I don't have to worry about it shutting off or anything like that. We can just say, hey, void overflow, and it works really well with these limited barrels. So yeah, it's just going to void overflow and for whatever's inside. Now I want to take these seeds and actually run them along a belt right here. And then this belt is going to send them into the basins. Now this is where they are going to be pressed. Now you would think that I might need like 6, or you might think I need like 9 since I'm going to be keeping up with this. But I think if we speed this up fast enough, we may be able to get away with like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 maybe. I don't even think we're going to need 6, but I am going to place 6 down just in case. And these are all going to get mechanical presses on top of them. So yes, this is going to be quite a bit of stress. If we want to run these at a significant pace, yeah, we're going to need quite a bit of stress. And that's where that big motor is going to, I think, come into play. And by the way, with these, all we need is a funnel on the face, just a regular funnel, nothing fancy. We just need to send the items into these and nothing needs to come out except for fluid, which is going to be piped out through the back. And so to get things up and powered, I now have this set up with our extension. And then we now are producing 16,000 stress units over here. and I have it set on a rotational speed controller. One, so I can control the direction that everything is spinning, and two, that way I can adjust the speed to make sure that we can keep everything up and running. So I just need a shaft, and we should be able to extend this onto the belt here. And notice it is spinning the wrong way, but that's just as simple as using the rotational speed controller to swap it around. Perfect. And then also up here, all of these are ready to go. Now, a pump. This is what makes this whole setup work out really nice, is all I need is a pump and some sort of tank, which I think I'm going to use a immersive tank. So from this point forward, when it goes into the tank, we can then just pipe it to another location. I think that is going to work out really, really well. And if we use some pipes from Create for our initial setup here, I can just tap into the back here onto all of these basins like this, and then my pump can go right here, and then I can power that with a cog right here. It doesn't get any better than that. This right here is going to allow it to all be pulled out of these pipes. And so just like this, I can go ahead and hit this, and there we go. We now have another storage with nice access down at the bottom. And so for this, I will just simply take my pipe and make sure we route it all the way to the top here. And perfect. We now have ourselves a nice little holding area for all of our seed oil. Now for this, I would probably recommend actually using a brass funnel. That way we can make sure that this maximizes everything. It's going to put stacks in front of it. I took some of the seeds out of my inventory, out of my storage here, and filled this up so we can start to really see it functioning. And yeah, we should be able to see this oil making its way up the tube and being stored inside of this whole storage fluid tank. I tell you what, I just upped it to basically 64 RPM, and I'm so glad it's away from the base because that is one noisy operation. By the way, don't get confused with the type of biodiesel that I'm actually making. I'm not making the biofuel that is a part of Create Crafts and Additions. This would require cinder flour, biomass, and also sugar in order to produce. I'm actually going to be making the biodiesel that is from Immersive Engineering. But I will say that depending on where you're at in the game, one may be easier than the other, but they both do the same thing. They both superheat for 20 minutes per bucket, which is a fantastic thing to have. Now, I know we have superheating with Create New Age and stuff like that, but I feel like this is a pretty nifty little thing that we can also get. And plus, I really want it for the power for our diesel generator, which is going to help to power a ton of other things from the Immersive Engineering mod. As we found out last episode that arc furnace, well, New Age just doesn't cut it. By the way, just in that small time of me talking with you, we're already at 65 buckets of seed oil. Yeah, this might be overkill. So now with our seed oil in production, we should start actually working on producing our ethanol. Now, I think I've changed up. I don't know if I'm going to use honey bottles. I think instead, I'm going to use glowberries. This is actually our best option now in the production of the ethanol from what it looks like. Which kind of makes sense, being berries and yeah, of course, making wine and then ethanol. Yeah, it makes sense. But this can be put into a garden cloche, and that seems pretty decent, and way better than using up all of our honey for this operation. So I think instead what I'm going to do is I'm going to route these fluid pipes down here. Now, the cool part about these fluid pipes is they don't really care about distance. That is something that is completely different than the Create ones. Yes, you can carry these all the way under here, and that pump is still going to pump water all the way over here, no problem at all. Now, just like our other setup, I basically just have a conveyor belt here, except for these, I don't really have to worry about anything. They're just going to only put one item out, and so we just need to fill it into this barrel. Now, I am, however, going to need to send it into this. Now, this is a industrial fermenter, and this is actually what's going to do the fermenting, is what's going to produce the ethanol for us. Now, this particular multi-block is probably one of the simpler ones to build, being that it is just some pipes, some cauldrons, a couple of these engineering blocks, and then we just click it right here, and that forms this machine. However, I love it says moonshine is the achievement. The way we are going to input items is through the back or the left side, which is, yeah, I guess depending on how you set these machines up, that would work. Yeah, because you can't change these sides on these particular machines. Now, this is an item output that's up top, and this is our fluid output. So our fluid output is actually going to get routed around, and we actually need to take our items from here and we need to send them into this. And I think some belts from Create might do the best work here. So I have my belts all ready to go. I'm using a gearbox. Something to note, if you do want to extend a belt and actually change the direction, the best thing to do is on the belt that is going to be receiving the next set of items or changing the direction, you're going to want to make sure you extend it one out so that way you can put a gearbox. This is probably one of the cleanest ways of actually changing direction while keeping all of your rotation clean, just like you see here. And then I'm using a basic motor connected to this, making sure that it's spinning in the right direction. If this was the wrong direction, I would have just connected the motor directly to the belt. But this should all be working now, and I should be able to use a regular funnel and then place a funnel on here and make sure this is sent to insert. And then I can just put a trap door in case this does feed too much and we end up with a backup. The crate belts are really good with having items just sitting on there and they won't spill out into the world, which is probably one of the worst things for servers. Now, instead of this, we don't have to use any sort of pumps. This will actually just pump the fluid right out. And so we can have this go right into another storage container. And I think this is going to be perfect. So I'm going to route that there. And then I just need some more fluid pipes. And I'm going to run these fluid pipes from the output slot right here. And I'm going to run it right along the edge. I'm going to take it up. And this is going to go straight into the top right here. Man, I really do love immersive engineering. It just looks so good. And then I guess the only thing left to do is to turn this on. So we've just got to connect it up to some power. And right here should work. Perfect. So now this is up and running. And this should start fermenting. And that is going to be producing ethanol. And that ethanol should automatically be pumped over here. And you can see there's already 2 buckets now inside of this tank. Now there's only one more step in our production towards actually making the biodiesel. And that is sending these 2 things into a refinery. And so might as well get that all set up and started. And this process is not too bad either. This thing is only a 3 block by 5 block multi-block. So it looks a lot scarier in the little image here than it actually is. And so, yeah, this thing, very, very simple, like I said. And one little boop, and it's now a chemical processor, just like it says. And what we need to do basically is take our pipes, and I just need to lead these pipes into this input side, and then also lead this over here into this input side. However, there's still one component that I'm still missing in this whole operation, and that's the nitrate dust. Now, I don't think this actually gets consumed in the operation because there's not actually an item input. You just need to have the catalyst in here in order for it to work, which means we need to build one more multi-block because there's only one way to actually get that catalyst. And that is by building a crusher monstrosity. Oh, and by the way, to get these tanks to actually pump, you have to give them a redstone signal on the bottom, and then they will actually pump their fluids into their respective containers. Now I decided to build this one back here and up a little bit. And I've almost got this whole thing filled in. Just need the hoppers that goes in here. And these hoppers are kind of important and kind of hints at how this machine works. So I just need to click on this middle block right here with the hammer. And there we go. Now we've got a big piece of machinery here. And yes, the main input is actually just by dropping the items into the top. And be careful, you don't want to fall in here. Now I just need to give this thing some power, and this thing is ready to start crushing. Now, the way that we get that nitrate is, I believe, by crushing sand? Yeah, by sandstone. So just need to take a little bit of this and pop that in, and then we should be able to drop that in to be crushed. Hey, I don't need you going in there. Now, this actually sends the output out the face here, and we've already got the nitrate needed. I think a barrel actually works really well for this. We can just place a barrel in the front, and it will automatically send the items into that barrel, which, yes, works out much better. This guy is stealing my XP. How dare this guy? Get out of here. Look at that. We've been enemy-free for a while, and then this guy shows up. But yes, I think we only need one of these, right? And so all I have to do is put that in there and give this some power, and we are ready to rock and roll. I got to find the power port. Oh, it's right here. So yes, I just need a connector. Oh, and we're basically there at producing diesel. Oh, we are so close. So close. Connector. And just like that, we're producing biodiesel. And I'm going to make another tank that is going to store this. That is going to go right over here. And so now I'm just going to go ahead and start to pipe this in. Now, I have been looking, and it does appear like scalability is definitely going to be something I'm going to have to work on, specifically with our ethanol, as I just don't think I'm producing enough ethanol for the job. And the only thing I have to do to really produce more ethanol is to just add more garden cloches, I think. And then that would definitely supply plenty more ethanol for our biodiesel needs. Just in a short amount of time, I already have almost 50 buckets worth of biodiesel. That is fantastic. So yeah, I think today was pretty well productive. Now, all of this stuff that you see right here may look kind of complicated to set up, but I promise you this was far from complicated. Well, it is going to really pack a punch later on, which we're going to dive into next episode as we start to actually utilize some of this biodiesel. So if you're looking forward to seeing that, be sure to click that subscribe button if you haven't already, and well, give this video a thumbs up if you did enjoy. I'm gonna, scale up a little bit of that ethanol, and well, it's now time to thank the amazing supporter of today's episode. And that amazing thanks, by the way, is going to go out to Kettle Cooked. Thank you so much for your amazing support, by the way, over in the Discord by becoming a Discord premium member and supporting in one of the best ways possible. I thank you so very much. And guys, I thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one. And of course, as always, thanks for watching. Bye.